How's it going, man? Tomorrow here. I want to thank y'all for coming through for tonight's coverage of the election runoff in Georgia. We're going to be going over some news articles. So let's get some time for some people to come in here. Make sure you like the video upon coming in. So that way, I guess the rest of the notifications go out. And I want to thank y'all for coming through. As with all elections, man, somebody has to lose. Yeah, it's just going to show you what type of place that we have here, given the recent news that come out in the previous couple of days. There should be no reason. But we're going to wait till people come on so that way they can give their predictions on what's going to happen. I have my predictions of what's going to happen tonight in Georgia. But let's wait till my panelists get on so that way we can go into this, go over some articles, and wait for these results to come in. The polls closed at 7 o'clock Eastern time. That's why I started at 7 o'clock, because I didn't want to do all this fluff kind of coverage that you see for like before sports games. I didn't want to do that kind of stuff. So. Hey, what's going on, Mike? We just started, just did the intro for the show. So we're just waiting for the results to come in. The poll is closed at 7 Eastern. So we're just sitting back waiting. So you want to do some articles or?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
Hey, peace to the panel, peace to the chat. Thank you for having me on, man.
Yeah. Before we get started, what is your predictions for these two particular races?
I think between Warnock and his opponent, I think that's going to be a blowout. Personally, I think between Purdue and his opponent, I think if you pronounce his name right, Ossoff will definitely be tight. Purdue seems to have a lot of support, despite the fact that he missed the first debate, and it just seems weird that a person who skips a debate and doesn't show up still has a lot of support on the ground. So that's where we stand right now. I think the energy is really strong. Stacy Abrams did a good job galvanizing the forces on the ground, getting a lot of voters back up and going on the rolls, and putting a lot of energy, behind the campaigns of the Democratic candidates. So if it's not a twofer for the Democrats, it's definitely going to be a one-in. That one-in would probably be Warnock. Just my take.
Yeah. What's going on, Nagam?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, guys? I've been watching this pretty close. Talked to my boy Vaughn earlier. They've been getting the pull out the vote. He is a Fulton County guy. He's out there in Atlanta. Says they had a good turnout. The lines at the polls weren't as long because they really felt that they really did a great job as far as getting people registered and getting in their mail-in votes. So they thought they hit it pretty heavy. They feel they got a very good turnout at the polls, certainly in the morning. It looks like it's kind of shredded, it's kind of slowed down a little bit in the afternoon. Myself, I'm a little concerned about that, just a little bit concerned, because in my view, the Democrats, especially in that county, are going to have to get out at least. I know the numbers were pretty big. They were saying like they had like 550,000 or so in the general election, And I think here now we're probably looking at about 445 or so thousand coming out, which is a great number. But I know they registered a lot of people. I would hope the numbers would have been a little bit higher. That's just me looking at it just from a numbers perspective, because certainly when you're going up in some of those northern, more white counties, they got long lines out. So they're trying to actually counter at the polls what the Democrats are so, banked in early voting and so forth. So just another question: how much of our people really came out early? So I think that's pretty high, but I really would like to see a kind of a higher turnout, even at the polls. Looks like we've done very well, but I can say this: it looks like it's going to be very close. I think Ossoff is going to have a slightly more difficult time. I think he's going to be dealing in some of the northern, very white counties. Are going to be tough that are rural. It's going to be tough to win there. Though, as you come a little bit further towards certainly Atlanta and the Gwinnett County and so forth, I think it's certainly going to be a lot better for him. I think Warnock definitely is going to be rocking very strong in the Atlanta metro area and so forth, where there's a super concentration. And then as you start going a little bit further out in the Cobb and so forth, where you actually have a little bit more rural Black people there, they're certainly going to come out hard for Warnock as well. As I told you, my fraternity brothers and so forth, where I'm getting some reports from, in Alpha Phi Alpha have really gone in. They've gone in, man. They blanketed the place. So I think they've pulled out as much as they have. I'm definitely concerned about Warnock. I think he's going to do well. I'm more concerned about Ossoff and seeing how well he's going to do.
The numbers are coming in right now. I just want to share my screen. Numbers are coming in.
Okay, I think it's going to be a split tonight, fellas. I don't know if we're going to take the Senate, but I think it's going to be a split tonight. If I'm going to take a quick guess, Mike, go ahead, break out the numbers. See what you have.
Hold on a second. There you go. All right.
Can anybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Burke County, the only one, but I gave you the co-host.
Okay.
What are the numbers there?
Ossoff is 74% to Purdue's 25%. Warnock is 70% to Loeffler is 29%.
Yeah, but that's more of a minority county. The key is going to be those white suburban counties and those kind of white rural counties that are going to come out, that are going to be very Republican. There's no doubt about it. But how deep are those numbers are going to come out? And right now I'm hearing that lines are fairly long there right now as well. So and they've actually gotten an extension to 7:35 or 7:40 because of some accident or something that happened there, and the judge is giving them about an extra 40 minutes or so to kind of get those lines in. So it looks like whites in these heavily Republican, mostly white areas are coming out, and it seems like they're going to come out strong. They're going to come out. They're definitely going to come out tonight. So it depends on how much we have banked. I would have liked to see more Black people come out, and Latinos and Asians certainly in Cobb, more so moving more towards the central Atlanta area, certainly in Fulton, and some in Gwinnett counties. I would have liked to have seen very strong numbers as far as people being in long lines there, but it doesn't seem the lines are as long. So did we shoot the whole gun in the early voting and in the absentee ballots? Did we bank that much? That's going to be the question for tonight. But to grab both seats, if the whites are coming out very heavy in these rural areas and really are putting the numbers in it's going to be tough to sweep these cats tonight. Is what I'm thinking. Hope I'm wrong, but that's kind of where that's what I'm thinking right now. This is coming down very heavily down racial lines.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think the Warnock thing is a kind of foregone conclusion. For him winning, I think Ossoff is probably going to lose by 2 points, 1.5, maybe 2 points. But the other one's going to be a blowout. So that's my predictions for tonight. Could be wrong, but as these things come in by county, that's where we're at. Let me share my.
Yeah, 159 counties, MOT. 159 counties are going to be coming in from Atlanta. 159 counties. So that's why I say it's we don't want to make any early calls here as of yet, because there are a lot of counties. But some of the key counties are going to play a key role here as to the outcome of this race here tonight, of both of these races.
Yeah, these are the counties that are in right now. Burke County, Lanier County, Miller County. So as this stuff speeds up, we're going to see this map fill up, obviously, by county. It's a whole bunch of counties. Man, that's a lot of counties for a state. But yeah, that's what it is. So we're just waiting for the things to update. With this race, for me personally, it just shows that the right to vote shouldn't be infringed by any party at all. Like, it shouldn't be no excuse of how we don't even get voting right within the country. Like, I don't understand how that's such a problem where you can get locked up for next to no reason, but you can't just walk in and go vote. That's crazy. Yeah.
Well, their whole game is to suppress your vote. Right now, I just heard I'm on CNN. I'm watching them a little bit, and they just got some early returns right now coming in. They're saying across Georgia right now, it seems like Ossoff and Warnock are up by a few hundred votes, with about 3,000 or 4,000 votes so far reporting in. So for each, so right now they're both slightly ahead, but that is far too early to say anything. We're probably not going to really get a winner on this thing probably till tomorrow or maybe even Friday. But the numbers are starting to come in. Now, Georgia's been good with respect to having these recounts and everything else like that. So they're going to be able to get information out pretty quickly. I think this time around. But what I am concerned about, and this is something that they've been quiet about. I've been looking at Greg Palast and so forth, and they've really been talking, and Stacy Abrams, of what they've been talking about voter suppression. If some of this voter suppression tactics actually work here tonight, that I believe will be decisive. I believe if voter suppression is able to play a role in this election here, it will be decisive. Half a points, I believe, are going to make a huge difference. We're talking 5, 10, 15, maybe 20,000 votes that will play a key role here. And we certainly know that we've got at least 350,000 votes that have been somewhat suppressed or are still under some type of legal review. So voter suppression in this race here, both of these races will be decisive.
Yeah, it's interesting that Loeffler, she owns a WNBA team. She's one of the richest politicians, if not the richest politicians in office right now. Didn't support the protest for George Floyd, even though the majority of her team and her franchise is Black. And so the franchise actually turned their back on her and basically told her to sell the team or get out, or basically get out. You have a workers' revolt, so to speak, from the players, basically telling her to get out of here, man. And the other aspect is that she's also been taking pictures with very nefarious individuals who are connected with Ku Klux Klan, the KKK, various, David Duke and these sort of people. Very sketchy background, and I'm surprised nobody in the Senate or even any other in Congress or the House has called this out. But it goes to show you that, you know, when it comes to, equality, like they always talk about, equal rights and whatnot. But with Warnock, they tried to connect him to Obama's former pastor and make it seem like that's a bad thing. But she gets caught taking pictures, selfies, and all this other stuff with very nefarious individuals that, in other countries, they would be considered on the terrorist watch list. No one says anything about it.
These are excellent points, Mike. I was going to bring that up as well. Excellent. You're dead on the money. This woman has been taking pictures with even the last former Klan leader who murdered a black man, murdered him, and he got a manslaughter charge. Did not even get a full murder charge, but got a manslaughter charge. Did time, and she's up in there with him, all teethy, jaw to jaw, smiling, hanging out. And she was claiming, she didn't really know who this guy was, and all this bull crap. And her team members saw this, and that's why what Mike just mentioned about them having a work turnaround. They like a work or a team. Let's say, sell the team, get out of here. We don't really want to play for you. They saw this and were appalled. So this is exactly what's been going on. She's been around very, very nefarious, supremely sketchy, racist, very what people could consider rather savage characters who have killed people, black people especially, and and she's smiling with them and cheesing it up. So very, 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 very suspect individual she is, and I think that's been a large. If the people are coming out and are drawing out some numbers, that's helping them to draw out against her as well. But the whites on the other side of the fence, what I think is this is very heavily racially motivated on both sides here. This woman is going to have many of her people come out and vote for her and support her as well. So, let's see who's able to get to the polls. Let's see how this whole poll thing is working. The polls have closed. Most polls have closed right now. I think there are a couple that are open still, but the numbers should be coming in literally as we speak in this show here.
Yeah, come 7:30, it's supposed to be officially closed, and then we could see numbers by 12 o'clock tonight. Go ahead, MLT, please.
Yeah. According to the New York Times, if you were in line before 7 o'clock, you get to stay in line until you vote. That's coming down from the New York Times as of 22 minutes ago. A handful of polling places will stay open past 7 p.m. And if you were in line before 7 p.m., you obviously get to stay there. The polls close as in no more people can get in line, not that they just shut off and everybody just stop voting and they just start counting at that particular time. So I just wanted to give that up there.
Also, provisional and overseas ballots will come in and will be counted up until Friday. So if this thing is really close, we're not going to get really the full skinny on this thing till the end of the week. Maybe not till Saturday. If this thing is really, really, really close. Turnout has been very heavy, so I suspect things are going to be close. So just
wanted. All right, Wayne Brown, I want to thank for the $2 super chat. For this thing, I would rather it not be called tonight, or even next week, or even a week after that. I just wanted to give as much time as possible, so that way all these votes can get counted. So that way we ain't got to worry about some arbitrary midnight cutoff. Because if we would have did that, we would have had a very different president right now. So I just want all the votes to be counted, and I want this particular system of just knocking people off the voter rolls to be illegal. It should be something that should never happen.
Yeah, absolutely right. I'm going to make a request of Mike. Mike, would you be able to find Greg Palas' last kind of dispatch on the state of the purge ballots that's supposed to be put back on the rolls, but yet they've spoken that they'll put it back in time when they feel like it. And I believe there's been some activity on that recently. Would you be able to have that video potentially and bring that up, or I don't know if you could find that?
I saw one video from Greg this morning, and basically he said the same thing that he said a few weeks ago. So I don't think much has changed in that area. What I do know of this situation is that there are a lot of Black people who really didn't make it at all. That should have made it, but that did not make it due to these circumstances. So I don't know if you have anything exclusive that you think is out there, but I haven't seen anything new.
I know I haven't seen anything exclusive. I didn't know if there's anything that further came through today. I was looking around because sometimes this stuff will come through, but the general media will not pick this up for various reasons. They're lauding the Secretary of State of Georgia because he stood up to the president. That it's going to be legal, but yet at the same time, he has run one of the most nefarious voter suppression campaigns against minority, and I'm going to say minority because it's Black and Latino and Asian and young voters that we've seen yet so far this year, and nobody's calling him out on that, on his absolute effery that he's pulled off there as well. So I cannot look at this guy and laud him as a hero. He's no hero in my eyes, and I'm not, and I don't believe anybody who's running active voter suppression campaigns against American voters. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, whatever you are. If you're being voter suppressed by someone, I believe you are a criminal. You are acting against the the interests of the American people, as far as I'm concerned. And I believe, damn me, you should be in prison for such activities. That's how I feel. I do not look at this guy as a hero, and I would like to see some of his vile activities be spoken about openly and chastised for such. And this is how I feel. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to play this clip from last night with Warnock and Ossoff. So fair use. This is from Yang Speaks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this incredible fundraiser for John Ossoff and Reverend Warnock. Welcome to both of you. You're going to save the country. Yes.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
Wonderful to be here with you to save the country. No pressure at all.
No pressure at all. You guys are used to it by now. So one of the arguments I get, because a lot of folks want to see DC come together and they say, hey, we need bipartisanship. And they're concerned that if we elect both of you, which obviously we're going to do, I mean, that's the thing to do. The concern they have is that somehow a balanced government is better than having one party in charge of everything. Now, I think this is frankly a dumb argument, but what is your response to that voter?
I think a lot of us have been feeling something in our hearts these last few weeks that's a little unfamiliar, given how this year and the last 4 years have gone. And that feeling is hope. Because Trump is leaving, there is light at the end of the tunnel in this pandemic and economic crisis. And zooming out bigger than that, the chance to author the next chapter in our country's history and to do things that are so long overdue. Expanding voting rights, as the Reverend said, passing a new Civil Rights Act, criminal justice reform, investing in clean energy and infrastructure to both rebuild our economy and create good paying jobs for working people, and also to solve this environmental crisis. To finally make sure, and Andrew, you do such a great job focusing on this, because what has gone wrong in our country that led us to this moment in the first place? Just because Trump is defeated, we have to recognize that these deeper underlying problems persist, and leadership like his only grows out of soil already poisoned. There are just far too many working people in this country who can't make ends meet, who can't afford housing, healthcare, education, the basics, who have no access to dignified work that pays a living wage so they can work just one job, who are denied equal justice under the law, those basic conditions of the beloved community that Congressman Lewis taught us about. And it's just not complicated how we get there. We can see it. We can see that future. It's tantalizing us. We can enact legislation that solves these problems for ordinary people, but only with the Senate. And so as we think about the stakes, yes, it is empowering the health experts and rushing economic relief to people who are suffering. It's also bigger than that. It's also this opportunity to progress America on this journey that drew my mother to this country as an immigrant when she was 23, because she believed America was on this journey toward progress. Let's make the most of this moment, win these two races so that we can deliver for people who are hurting and who have been hurting long before this pandemic.
It genuinely does feel like history has found the two of you and put you in this position because so much does rest on this race. And there could not be two better individuals to represent the Democratic Party and the hopes and dreams of tens of millions of Americans.
We need to invest in America. And one of the things that both John and I agree on, and we've been talking about, is a historic investment in infrastructure, which would include also green infrastructure, so that we create jobs with a livable wage for people in the short term and position the American economy to compete in a global world amidst increasing globalization over the long term.
You know, Reverend and I were discussing this recently, and how an infrastructure plan can really unite the people of the state because of the economic opportunity that it represents for communities, urban, suburban, and rural. Because if done right, it will mean equitable access to economic opportunity for marginalized communities, because it means that those 9 rural hospitals that have closed in 10 years can be replaced and more built. It means clinics can be built in underserved areas. It means rural broadband, which is the rural electrification of our time. It means environmental remediation where there's been contamination. It means the kinds of investments in clean energy that mean we're not only building a sustainable economy, but also one where Georgia is the leading producer of clean energy in the region. That is an initiative that can unite the people of this state, that can break down partisan barriers. And what this moment represents in Georgia, again, when you got a young Jewish son of an immigrant, a white guy running alongside a black pastor, the senior pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church, and we present this vision of opportunity and health and justice for all people in this state. What this is and what this will be is a repudiation of the Republican Party's Southern strategy to divide people in Georgia and Southern states along racial and cultural lines so that we fail to grasp our shared interests. We're presenting to the people of Georgia a vision that stitches together our interests and our values and reminds us that, look, we really all need the same things out of life, and good government can make those things real for working families who are suffering here in Georgia and across the country. And that's what this is all about.
It's interesting. I'm here in Georgia. I have to say the people of Georgia clearly have a stronger connection to David Perdue than they do Kelly Loeffler, in large part because David Perdue has actually been elected, whereas Kelly Loeffler was appointed, and a lot of people still don't know that much about her. I have to say that it's a really interesting dynamic. We have to face facts that people are going to show up and probably just vote for both of them or both of you. So this really is a get out the vote effort in my mind. If all of the voters who came out in November come back, then we're going to win. And that's what we're here today to make happen. There are so many people excited about you both here tonight. And you should know this may be posted in an environment where it gets seen by the public. So, tens, hundreds of thousands of people. So for the folks who want to help you, aside from donating, or even if they do donate, how can people help?
We're not going to be able to match the financial firepower of the National Republican Party, but we do need to be able to hold our own. So deeply appreciate, especially that grassroots financial support, the $5, $10, $15 contribution, as folks can make them to support the campaigns. And get involved by phone banking and by reaching out to people that you know in Georgia who may or may not be aware of this upcoming election. Make sure communicating where, when, and how to vote and what the stakes are. And it is a sort of like just a perfect distillation of what's happening in Georgia and in American politics, these two races. Because you got in Perdue and Loeffler, the two most corrupt and out of touch members of the US Senate. I mean, when Reverend Warnock says his opponent, it's not just that her family owns the New York Stock Exchange, is that they own the company that owns the New York Stock Exchange. My opponent lives on a private island behind like 3 gates. I mean, and both of them were too busy looking after their own stock portfolios to take care of the people they represent. Both.
So let me ask this question, MOT, or Indigo as well. Can you be a sitting politician in office and own stock, publicly traded? Is that possible?
Yes.
Possible. It definitely is possible. Al D'Amato, all these guys up here, back in the day, we're doing it. One of my good friends who was a broker had Al D'Amato as his, he was a New York State Senator here in New York. I had him as a client. I had a guy, Ron Suster, out in Ohio, who was a state representative, and he was a client of mine as well. So I definitely I've represented certainly politicians as a broker. Now, my view very simply is your stock portfolio and stuff, all that kind of stuff like that. You do have, as a politician, you what you own and all that, is up to public disclosure, and people can see and people can actually see what you're doing. That's why these guys know the kind of stock trades that they're making. But do I find a lot of this as a conflict of interest? Unfortunately, I do. Yes, I do see that this could potentially be huge conflicts of interest. Like, these people could be voting on various, let's say, industries, and who's going to do what, and who's going to get this or that or whatever. Like we're looking at here with these vaccines and so forth. And a person who was in a political position could potentially benefit from this economically. So, does this have a lot of issues? Yes, it does. It just does. Is it legal? Is the question. Is it legal? Yes, it's legal. It is legal. You can own stock. Yes, you can. But insider trading and these kind of things that any investor is subject to, the politicians would be subject to that as well, and they could easily get involved in insider trading quite a bit easier and at a much more sophisticated level than, let's say, the average person could, of which I find to be rather disturbing, especially if they have control stock and this kind of things, and other people making trades for them and other accounts and so forth. There are a lot of very funky things that they could do to take great advantage of things down the line, which I find very disturbing. But unfortunately, this is legal. Unfortunately, it is.
All right.
That's that.
Of them opposed relief for ordinary people while they were calling up their brokers and trying to adjust their portfolios to enrich themselves during a catastrophe, and while they were getting classified briefings in Washington. It's extraordinary. But what we are doing is delivering a message of hope to the people here, because this is all about turnout. This is about electrifying, mobilizing unprecedented participation in our democracy because of the sense of hopeful anticipation and inspiration about what is possible when we win, and what this victory will mean in the daily lives of ordinary people who are hurting, who feel left out, for whom the national political narrative is not relevant or resonant, because they rightly see politics as this partisan, corrupt circus that it has become. People who need to be paid a living wage. People who fear that they may be bankrupted by a bad diagnosis. People who do not trust that the justice system will render justice. Our task is to make sure that they know that we are here to serve them and to deliver tangible relief, equity, opportunity, and justice in their daily lives.
Are these men not phenomenal? Do they not belong in the US Senate? Let us make that happen. Let's thank the people that we are going to be celebrating, sending to the US Senate on January 5th. John Ossoff and Reverend Warnock.
Yeah, I think that I'll end it right here. We'll go back to the polls. I think that's a little bit more important right now. I'm just saying, I think that they're both significant candidates, but the firepower on the right is something that, you know, it's hard to fathom how people can support what's going on, you know, with these candidates. You know, you have two incoming ones and one incumbent, and two new school ones, and these other two incumbents who, you know, they're diametrically opposed on issues during the pandemic that, you know, they should be on the same page on, and all you get is smear tactics and ad hominem attacks. You know, he's messed with, Warnock has met with Pastor Wright. It's just, it doesn't seem to be about politics. It seems to be about just trying to tear down the other candidate. And then I'm saying, Georgia is, you know, out of all places, man, you know, with all the things that happened in November, you would think they would sway to the left, but, you know, for whatever reason, there's a lot of hardliners out there. They're 10 toes down with the right, no matter how bad the candidate is.
Yeah, they pretty much don't even care.
I think the answer to a lot of that is when you start to examine this closely and how successful the Republicans have been in that area to really push the racial divide to a large extent, which has happened. You're going to see much of this come down racial lines, and that's ultimately, you are looking at a tribalistic, racialized type of look. There, that's unfortunately what you're looking at. I know we may not want to deal with that for what it is, but that's in fact what we're dealing with. And the deeper you look at that, the more evident this will become. The whole factor of a runoff game was designed to be a voter suppression move against Black bloc voting. And when you look at the history of this, that's why they came up with this. So the runoff, especially in the South, which along with the Southern strategy that the Republicans ran, this has been a very key part of their political structure, economic as well, but political structure, to maintain certain level of status quo. What's gumming up the works here a bit and what's making them disturbed is the fact that you have so many Black people and others coming out at this stage, which could potentially upset the apple cart. That's why they're now have bills on their floors right now in the Georgia State Legislature to change and make voting even more difficult with more IDs and so forth, and other types of laws that they're going to come in there with to try to restrict you from voting because of this as well, and somewhat of a dentifrice, if you will, or prophylaxis against Stacy Abrams and her organization and what they've been doing, along with the other organizations that are out there, my fraternity included, who's been exceedingly powerful in this voter registration game. But that's what they're doing, and it's coming down racial lines. So let's call it out for what it is. I have no problem in calling that out right here, right now.
Yeah, it's just that you have to realize that elections in this country had nothing to do with people. It had to do everything with winning and then doing the bidding of the corporate interests. Because people who come to the polling place with the idea of trying to run this type of game on people, there ain't no way those people trying to fix roads or bridges or make sure people have jobs within their state. You know, if they trying to run this specific type of system on their own people, I mean, it just went to show you the programming have worked. People know that this stuff is not working within their state, and they were vehemently vote against their own best interest because it's not about the candidate. The party is the culture. It's not the candidate. Part of the culture is being a certain type of person who cares about X, Y, Z or not. This is what this is about, man. You know, this is what this is. You know, you have people who claim to be American, want to walk around with the biggest flags that you can get from China, and they want to tell everybody else that they're not even American citizens when they don't even respect the rule of law themselves. When put backed into a corner, you see it now. They don't respect the rule of law. So that's just where we're at, man. You know, there really isn't that much you can be able to do with it. And it's just, this is why I like Western conservatism a hell of a lot better, because a lot of people out there, they don't have that type of Southern culture along with their conservatism. And it does work. Look at the results of their state versus the results of the states in the South. And people have just got to stand up and be like, look, we got to have the bare minimum of America in the country where it comes to you showing up to vote. Here's the thing, man. If you can't get your candidate out, you know, there should be standards, minimum standards to where you're going to be able to apply to the actual system itself. You know, you just can't walk around saying and doing anything that you want to just because it'll help you win an election, because these people are so culturally ingrained in hearing certain types of things. Most of these people are going to be on this high and they're not going to be able to get off of it once this guy gets out of office. They're going to go back to boring politics and they're just going to turn off altogether. They're going to want more brazen and more wilder and wilder candidates who say all the stuff that they think is out their head, but none of this stuff is going to get anything better for anybody. Most of these people, they need them stimulus checks and all that kind of stuff. Still voted against their best interests. A lot of them.
Absolutely.
So it's more cultural than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting you bring up the flag, you know, being made in China. A lot of these guys will spend all the money they can to buy jerseys of athletes and other players and whatnot, and burn their jerseys based on the rugged individualism that this player may have taken to protest and redress his government. So they believe in freedom of speech and all these other constitutional amendments for themselves, but for everybody else, no, you're not allowed to have that. You know, who are you to take a knee at a game during the national anthem? Ask these guys the lyrics to the national anthem and they can't even tell you. They can hum it really good, but they can't tell you exactly what the lyrics are. I mean, they don't even know it. And so this is where we are. Like MOT is saying, you know, it's ingrained culturally ingrained into their psyche that, you know, them having rights over everyone else is pretty much the way they see it. You know, they don't believe in equal rights. You know, they believe in the Constitution, just not the equal rights part. They don't believe in the 14th Amendment and the 15th Amendment. They don't like that. Instead of coming out and saying these type of things, they just hide behind the idea of being a patriot. But being a patriot has nothing to do with what they're talking about. It just seems like they make up terms in order to validate themselves. And it's like, if you do know there's something called dictionary.com, you can just go to the dictionary and kind of pull that up. That term doesn't match anything that you're talking about and anything that you're doing right now. Trying to suffocate and suppress votes, you know, from one group of people and then turn back around and talk about stop the steal somewhere else. I just don't understand. I can't get into the mindset of those people. It's such a small space to crawl into. So this is where we are, though.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have properly they you know, the ruling class has without question properly gotten their or how would I say the segment of population that they want to control, that they control in line to believe that this is an equal game and keep Blackie down, and you will benefit from it as well. When you know they're getting a little something, but you know, like you said, homegirls living on an island in a gated community with billions of dollars, and ends meeting like a mother for her. But at the end of the day, many people, even rural whites, who are literally living just above the poverty line, and many have fallen into it, are out there online voting against Blackie, thinking that their interests are different. And it's a tribal thing. It's crazy. Many are voting against their interests, but this is the game that they have. Southern strategy is fully in play, and they've been running this playbook on us for many decades. And that is where we are. Our similarities from an economic position are very close, but they've taken the racial divide and has made this a giant chasm, and are believing that things are so different when they need the $1,200, the $2,000 stimulus checks and all that. It's as much as anybody, but yet here they are voting against their own interests. So this is the game that they have. This is the game that they've been playing for quite some time. But at the end of the day, it's working for those who are in the control positions, for Purdue and Loeffler or whatever her name is, and they're running strong there. They're running strong because of that. Even though their interest in what they're about has almost nothing to do with the poorest white voter in any one of their districts. It's crazy, but that's where we are, man. That's where we are right now, and how we're going to be able to get around that at this stage of the game in America, I don't know. I have some ideas. I'm not going to get on into that now, but as of right now, that's going to be a very difficult divide to cross. And this race, like many running the South, like many, not all, but like many, are definitely going to come down those lines.
Yeah, I often wonder, they always say that the left, they're all about welfare this, welfare that. But the leadership of this country proposed a $2,000 stimulus. And people in red states were saying, hey, we could use that $2,000. Oh, well, I thought that was welfare. I thought you guys were against welfare. What's this? Handouts from the government? You just waiting on the WM to give you money? Marxist this, communist that? If you're saying that a $2,000 stimulus is welfare, I mean, at what point do you rationalize and say, this is necessary, but only for us, not for them, right? Because that's really what it's coming down to. People on the right are okay with $2,000 as long as they're getting it, but if people on the left are getting it, then it's welfare. If they're getting it, it's a just due. I mean, this is happening in real time in 2021. This is happening in real time. People are saying the left gives out welfare, but the right doesn't believe in that. They believe in hard work. Why do you got your handout then? What's the handout for? If I was in Mississippi, $2,000 can go a long way. It can get my car on the road.
Man, 2,000 in Mississippi?
Yeah. If I was in Delta, I can put I can re-register my vehicle. I can, put that money down into a new apartment.
You can get food. You can get something to eat.
Yeah, $2,000 that can last me all the way to All-Star break, man. NBA. So I don't know, man.
It's the messaging.
Here's another thing, Mike. Most of the people who are complaining about the socialist aspect of it, most of them were all Black. I didn't hear many, whites in rural areas talking about how they wanted corporations to get all this bailout money, but them not to get $2,000.
Yeah.
The only people who were actually doing this was the political trolls on the right in the faces of people who actually needed the money. I didn't understand it. I'm sitting here okay. These people came out, they pretty much stole the first stimulus. And nobody really said anything about it. They had to pass another stimulus. What was that? In May, end of May, they needed to pass another stimulus. because corporations stole the first stimulus. Mitch McConnell didn't say how broke the country was then.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Mitch McConnell overridden the veto for the actual defense bill, $787 billion. And then he turned around and said that the country is going broke. We can't do the $2,000 as a separate thing. And he blocked it. He got no criticism from anybody on the right. Nobody criticized that guy. And then, I mean, you know, he has been routinely getting away with this stuff. And nobody really says anything about it whenever he does it. It's crazy.
If you're in Arkansas, $2,000 goes a long way, bro. That's the difference between you being behind on rent, you being delinquent on a car payment. That's a lot of mugger. And so these guys are saying, man, the left is all about welfare. But hey, go to those red states and tell those people not to take that check. You lose your life over something like that, man. This is a life and death situation for these people.
That's a fact, Mike. They're taking those checks. They've always been taking them. They've been taking welfare, a lot of welfare in these areas. These people are living just above the poverty line. They're living just above the poverty line. Many of their incomes have shrunk over the years. They're living just above the poverty line.
Mm-hmm.
But they're telling you this because you see a lot of Black people in this space. They've been so stigmatized because the messaging has been messaged so heavily against what they would consider the Black community, the Southern strategy, the Black community. They put that. So these guys feel, if you talk about socialism, they're saying nigga, 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 nigga. That is the code language of the Southern strategy, as told by Lee Atwater, and that is exactly one of their key messaging statements. That if you are on the left, you are socialist, and you're taking socialist policies, which translates into nigga, 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 nigga. That's what that means. And these Blacks are exceedingly sensitive to that and want to reject that, not be associated with this. When it is a messaging tool, it's a way to falsely paint you as, you know, as that certainly exists well in the white community all over this country, as we see in the red states in particular, in West Virginia and places like this that are extremely poor and have been extremely poor literally since the end of the Civil War. So that's in fact where you're at. Some have gotten better, but still, you know, there's a great degree of poverty that exists inside of this country. That's why welfare exists. You have many white people are the biggest welfare recipients out here, and nobody talks about that. But you're stigmatized by that. You are stigmatized by that. And these people that are sitting here in our space, they don't even understand this messaging and don't even have a proper counter for it, except troll your own and speak crazy about that, which really plays against you. And not that we in any respect look for welfare or these types of things, because many of us do not even really embrace that. Many of us are fiscal conservatives, like myself, very fiscally conservative in my own views, but yet the messaging that has come from the right to paint you and shape you a certain way is what has been more effective. And we have been effective in our messaging and actually painting them or shaping them as how they truly look. And that's been a big part of the problem here. People will vote for a psychotic Jeffrey Dahmer type murderer over a perceived, not a true, but a perceived socialist every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Hey, MOT, can I share my screen?
Yeah. So that's the.
All right, fair use.
I'm usually a Republican by nature. I'm a business owner, but current administration and its followers is just something right now where I don't really recognize the Republican Party anymore. So it seems like there's been a shift in focus and a shift in priorities where I'm kind of lining more to the Democrats at this point.
Hey, what did she say? Can't recognize the party? Traditionally a Republican? Going to the left? I didn't make this up. MOT didn't make this up. Nagone didn't make this up. That was straight from her. Anybody hear something different that I'm hearing?
Mike, I have to give you a lot of credit. Your clips that you've been dropping here over the last month or two have been they've been devastating. They've been devastating clips. They're devastating. Great stuff.
Thank you. Fair use.
Yeah.
Fair use. Go ahead,
Well,
please.
You have to understand that her needs is surviving to the next pay period.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have somebody in office who's going to do things deliberately to destroy the economy, they're not going to live to the next pay period.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the values are changing. The values are changing is because survival is starting to kick in, especially for business owners like myself. I don't want this dude around. Nobody in business is really saying that type of stuff, except for people who gets a lot of tax breaks from the federal government and they make billions of dollars a quarter anyway. It doesn't matter. But like far smaller enterprises, man, you need stable people in office so that way you can be able to operate your own business. But if the head is like rotting all the way down, it like, nah, man, like you got to get competent actual help before you do other things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I voted as such.
Voter fraud is very important. Just making sure we keep our values. I'm not a big fan of some of the things that look like things are starting to lean towards a little more socialist and not really our
Mike, stop right there.
See them for our families.
The media does an enormous harm to everybody in the country the moment they don't ask them, what do you mean by socialism?
Mm-hmm.
Because what these people mean socialism is other people are using my government. That government is supposed to be mine and mine only. So most of these people, when they talk about socialism, they're okay with the tax breaks that go to large companies, but it's a step too far for it to actually help people. And you got to make sure that this guy is like, dude, listen, man, you depend on the government for everything. You're supposed to redress things to your government. That's why they're there.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't supposed to be they're there and rich people and larger corporations get to use the government, but like the people who are far less than multinational corporations don't use the government at all. It doesn't make any sense. It's supposed to be the opposite of that.
The issues that are important for me here in Georgia are people maintaining jobs, unemployment. It needs to go down and jobs need to become more available.
As a voter, the most important issues for me is about the economy and, of course, the coronavirus.
The condition that our people are in right now with finances, with money, and how our economy is being ran and coronavirus, how that's affecting us, all those kind of things. And I think that who we vote for today will be able to hopefully be able to turn things around.
The stimulus bills and the checks, you know, it's important to vote because based on who gets in the office, it's based on how we gonna get money because of coronavirus, you know.
I have seen there are jobs out there for people that want them. It may not be as many as they were in the past, and it may not be exactly what they want to do, but I've seen there are jobs out there, and the more you hand somebody, the less they're going to work for it.
The more you hand them out money, the less they're going to work for it. Okay. All right. Just keep that in mind that this guy said this. And he's talking about socialism. But yet Germany's output as a socialist state is in the top 10 in the world. All right, man.
I am a business owner, so with the coronavirus and everything going on, relief for small businesses as well as the individual, what we saw with Congress and the stimulus checks and who held up what was the big turning point for me.
Low taxes, be the number one again, be the number one country again, like we used to be.
Coronavirus is getting worse. People aren't wearing their masks. People aren't abiding by, the regulations that have been set in place. And so I think it's getting worse. Also, it's important to go out and vote because our education system, college is too much money. And so go out and vote. That's what I gotta say.
Getting people the help that they need, getting the vaccine out the way that it's supposed to be. Hopefully, maybe at some point we can return back to normal here.
Hey, this is what's going down, man. I want to hear this woman again.
I'm usually a Republican by nature. I'm a business owner, but current administration
Republican by nature. Keep that in mind.
and its followers is just something right now where I don't really recognize the Republican Party anymore.
And its followers. She doesn't recognize the party anymore. Who are these people inside the party, MOT? Who are these people?
Those are the people who would run her off in a heartbeat. I mean, you have to understand that most immigrants, when they come here, if they come here through the legal way, they have to be some of the best people to even come here. Mm-hmm. And they definitely got to have a skill while they are here. So most of these people are even conservative, self-preservative by nature. They're not going to be all out there like that, right? So when you're scaring off the people whose actual value system align with what they think is conservatism, you're running off these people. You're running off small business owners, and that's just the problem, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So it seems like there's been a shift in focus and a shift in priorities where I'm kind of aligning more to the Democrats at this point.
Yeah, shift in focus, shift in demographics, leaning more towards the Democrats at this point. But is she a commie? Is she a Marxist? Is she a socialist?
Must be.
Yeah, she's a business owner, traditionally Republican. This is the demographics that's on the ground. This isn't us making this up. These are the demographics. Oh, somebody stole something, right? No. Arizona, we covered this before in November. Traditional Republicans who decided that they didn't like what they were seeing in the White House and said, I'm going to the left this time around. I don't know about this, right? You had truckers for Trump in 2016. This time around, those tax breaks and whatnot didn't come around for them. I'm not voting for this guy around. I'm not voting for this guy next time around in 2020. It's right out of their mouths. These are truckers. This is a business owner right here, a woman. You can't say that everybody who goes to the left are somehow socialists and they don't, they just want a handout. That doesn't make any sense. It's not consistent with reality. This is on the ground today. This isn't made up or something like that, a cartoon. This is happening in real time. People, I've talked about this before. This guy had so many opportunities to correct the system, to correct the situation during the pandemic, and he just didn't do it. You have a military defense budget that you can use to either build a wall or to bail out these states from an infrastructure standpoint during the pandemic, and you just didn't do it. The wall was more important than building up infrastructure. I don't know what else to say. I mean, people are going all the way down to DC when they should be in Georgia, galvanizing their base. They in DC yucking it up. Rap songs about how conservative they are, but you have a real conservative woman right here on the screen saying, hey, no, the economy is more important to me, man. I'm not going this time around. I'm going to the left.
Look at just look at the devastation behind small business.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of small business owners. I'm a small business. I know MOT. He has a small to medium sized business. Look, a lot of people are involved in business. They're not a one man shop or whatever. They're working with people who are involved in businesses. And look at the devastation that people have gotten hit with.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what this COVID has meant for the small business owner. And what returns have they gotten? But yet the Republicans can sit here and call you a socialist, but yet pass almost a $2 trillion tax bill where, you know, the super wealthy and the big corporations get all kind of tax cuts and benefits off of that you're underwriting for this. You're underwriting $2 trillion for them. They had no problem doing that. And said nothing. Nobody said anything. No one said anything. You're supposed to be fiscally conservative, and you're supposed to be, you know, a spendthrift, and all of this stuff that comes from the conservative line, and they're totally hypocritical. But now all of a sudden, when it comes to helping people who are in small business, people who are trying to keep their restaurants open, their small business open, their small boutique shops open, and so forth. Next thing you know, they get blasted out of business. Things get rough, and then you have Nosferatu sitting there in Kentucky, heading up the Senate, sitting there telling you, "I got nothing for you. I got nothing for you," and people are backing this up. Make sense out of that. Where the cornerstone of American society is small to medium-sized business. This is what this country's has been built on. And here we are, the small, medium-sized businessman is getting lit up left, right, and center. Left, right, and center. We see it all. I'm looking at it all over the place. It's very scary. This is not a game. But yet you're socialist when you're talking about, you know, trying to help out small business. And you have a small business person like this woman that Mike just showed in this, I consider it a rather devastating clip. You know, nails in the coffin, if you will, sitting here telling you, you know, take a look at what's going on. I can't recognize what's happening here. You know, they're not, basically what she's saying is they're not representing my interests.
Yeah.
That's what she's saying.
If I was a truck owner with a fleet, I wish I could write off 20 trucks. I wish I could write off 20 trailers, reefers and all. I wish I could write off the land that I need to park those vehicles on.
And have somebody else pay for it for you.
Yeah.
Have somebody else pay for your write-offs.
Yeah. You want me to compete with these other yo-yos who are getting these nice breaks, but I don't get it? What happened to equal protection under the law, man? Like, what's going on here? Like, how can anybody say, because you want the same thing that they have, you're a socialist, but they have it and you don't want to talk about it, but if I want it, I'm wrong. Make it make sense to me, MOT.
I mean, the problem is that they're so scared and afraid that somebody's going to get some money that they can't, that they don't want to risk the people that they don't like or respect getting anything from the government at the behest of chopping off their own face too. It makes absolutely no sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, let's go to this guy again.
Not a big fan of some of the things that look like things are starting to lean towards a little more socialist and not as much, not really our values, I guess, as I see them for our families.
The issue.
Hey, stop right there, Mike. Stop right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're missing these opportunities on purpose because they know perpetuating this type of ignorance can be kind of like an unsaid rule of things they actually want to say but don't want to say. They got to get these people on the record with what they actually mean, because I don't think these people understand what socialism is. I think they understand that socialism is being used like a slur, like most clowns use socialism and communism and all them type of isms all in the same place. But when you ask them what year and what country and what was the administration and what happened under their socialism to which it is equal within the environment, they look at you like you just lost your mind. But they never go drill down like, what do you think is socialist? But this is how you got people who think that, voter machines are being hacked and all types of stuff. Because once you start allowing for this type of nonsense to just go mainstream, all types of things creep in right behind it. This person probably think he's doing a good job or something good by even thinking this way when he can't even articulate what he's even talking about. Crazy.
But what's dangerous is they believe it, right? They don't have to articulate, they just believe it. And it becomes religious to them. It becomes doctrine to them. And then they turn back around and say, well, I don't agree with those. I don't think those values are consistent with family. But you don't seem to understand that the people that you support have not done anything about Roe v. Wade. They didn't do anything about that. You have feminists on your side of the camp. I don't see anybody doing anything about that. Those are not consistent with family values. What's with all these family values when it comes to that? But this is what we're dealing with here. This is where we are. And so you ask these people on the right to articulate their points. I don't, you get crickets, man. And so these people go to the polls, they pull the lever, or they slide the ballot in, and then you end up with somebody that was worse than you end up with a situation that's worse than what it was before. And that's how they got Mitch McConnell. People in Kentucky are starving. This guy just chuckled during the debate saying, ha, 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 ha. People's bellies haven't been filled, man.
Only thing he's concerned about is power. Coming from an insignificant state that is basically a welfare state, for more so than anything else. You've got a few small, exceedingly wealthy people in Kentucky, a few very extraordinarily wealthy people, and the majority is living just above the poverty line. And he's over here chuckling. Nosferatu, the vampire. That's what he's doing. Climbing into his coffin at night. It's crazy.
Have already set records for fundraising. Republican incumbents David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, top of your screen, are running against Democratic challengers Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. And no one has done more to register new Democratic voters and fight real voter suppression than Stacy Abrams, founder of the voting rights organization Fair Fight. And Stacy Abrams joins me now. Ms. Abrams, apologies, I'm going to have a little shorter segment than I wanted because of what I had to do with the previous interview. But I want to begin with President Trump's recent tweet attacking your former opponent in 2018, Governor Kemp, essentially calling for his resignation, alleging he called it a puppet, says there are disasters for Georgia, won't let, quote, professionals get anywhere near Fulton County. Could you have scripted President Trump's behavior any better to help the Democrats in your efforts to turn out voters? I mean, if anything, he is dividing the Republican Party.
I don't think our focus should be on the internecine fights happening with the Republicans. My mission and the mission of Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock is to turn out every Georgian who wants relief from COVID-19, who understands that $600 is not going to get a family through the winter. We need jobs, we need access to justice, we need real health care in Georgia and across the South, and we need leaders who actually show up to do their jobs. We have two feckless hypocrites in David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler. They have waffled back and forth on whether they care about the future of Georgia, and they've done very little to show any real concern for Georgia lives. We know that Jon and Raphael are the two men who will go to Washington, D.C. and will prove that Georgia indeed stands with its people.
If you come up short, what would be your explanation? You've had plenty of money. You've had plenty of resources. You've had, in this, is it what? Is it the access to the polls? If you come up short on Tuesday, what's your explanation?
That this was a competitive election and we didn't get the votes we needed. The reality is in 2018, we were able to show in court multiple times that there were impediments to voters who had the right to vote. We were able to secure litigation and legislation to make changes to make it easier for voters to access the ballot. But not at any time. I never challenged the legitimacy of the legal sufficiency of the election. I challenged the process that kept voters from being able to be heard. I am excited about the fact that Georgia is a competitive state, that this is a nail biter. And my hope is that Democrats will show up and demonstrate that November is the beginning of a pattern. But if it's not, then it's going to further demonstrate that we are a force to be reckoned with, and will continue.
So I just want to stop you here real quick. She didn't challenge the Dominion machines. What she challenged was the voter suppression. Okay, and out of that came the Fair Fight organization that she founded. That's how this works. You don't talk about removing machines and turning over 11,000 ballots and things like that. No, that's not how it works. This is how it works.
Continue to fight not only for national elections and statewide elections, but fight to continue to improve lives at the state and local level.
You know, if Democrats don't win one or both of these seats, some of them are going to come to you and say, hey, Stacy Abrams, I wish you were on the ballot. Wish you had run. Have you had second thoughts, third thoughts, fourth thoughts in the back of your mind? You're like, God, I wish I were on the ballot right now.
Not at all. I think we have two extraordinary candidates. Jon Ossoff is a warrior who has fought against corruption, and there's no better person, no better foil for him than David Perdue, who profited off of this pandemic. And Raphael Warnock is a social justice warrior, someone who has fought hard for families. And Kelly Loeffler has done absolutely nothing with her time in the U.S. Senate other than to make money off of it and to chastise and undermine the credibility of communities that are doing their best to be heard and seen in our country.
Look, I'm a data nerd, and I know you know the state county by county and all this stuff. And, you know, there's this generic take. It's essentially Atlanta and the suburbs versus the rest of the state. But if the convention, blow up that conventional wisdom, tell me someplace outside of Atlanta and Savannah that you think Democrats, if they do well there, that's a sign they're going to win this race.
And we're going to win Metro Atlanta. We're going to win Columbus. We're going to win in Albany. We're going to win in Macon. We're going to win in Savannah. I was recently in Upson County, a county that is traditionally a Republican county, but it has improved its Democratic performance from 16 to 18 and from 18 to 2020. We know that in a lot of the ex-urban counties that are outside Metro Atlanta, but not quite south of the Nat line, we've seen improvements in participation. And we believe that there are voters across the state who are going to show up. More than 100,000 voters who did not participate in November are voting in this election, have already cast their ballots, and they are disproportionately voters of color and disproportionately young voters. And what I remind people of is that in the statewide election, you don't win county by county, you win person by person, and that's what we've been doing. Fair Fight has been willing to invest millions of dollars into organizations, smaller groups that have been doing the grassroots organizing and mobilizing that it's going to take to win, and we are very hopeful and very determined to do so on Tuesday.
Stacy Abrams, appreciate you coming on. Happy New Year to you. Thanks for coming on and sharing your perspective with us.
Yeah. So although Stacy Abrams is not going to run for the Senate, she wants that governor seat. And so the next election is 2022, November. She wants that seat. I think with what she's doing right now, she's a surefire for that seat. I think they're going to take that from her. They're going to take that from Kemp. You know, Trump dumped him, basically told him he should resign, get him out of there. You know, she's putting in a lot of work on the ground right now. I think she's a sure-in for 2022, man.
Oh yeah.
I just want to say this very quickly, MOT. The president himself, Trump, sat back and said, "Look at you, Kemp. You basically, you're pitiful. Stacy Abrams is eating your lunch. She's tearing you," basically saying she's up in there tearing you out the frame. Mind you, Stacy Abrams tore him out the frame as well. But yet, you know, he's over there, you know, coming down, kept saying how Stacy Abrams is coming to get him, and these guys are all suckers and they've been played by her, and she's getting ready here to tear all y'all out. So that's what Trump actually said in that call when he was laying in the homie. So there we go. So Stacy Abrams looms large as a real problem in that state for the Republicans, and definitely took Trump's ass out as well. But anyway, go ahead, T, man. Go ahead, man.
It's just that for her, you need to set the grounds to where your level of participation can be such to where you don't lose twice for the same reason.
Yep.
And that's what she's doing. She's worked out there. She probably has more power now than she would be a governor. Because let's say she turns around and she sets up this type of stuff in like the Carolinas, the rest of the South, Texas, for the most part, and recreates the same type of results that she's going to have in 2022, she really don't need to run for office. She's going to have more money she knows what to do with, and she's going to be one of the king or queen makers inside of the party.
Well, her organization was felt in Wisconsin because she had two ladies that were part of her organization who registered a lot of voters in Wisconsin, helped to bring that over. Any person that's walking around in this country and is responsible for registering over 1 million voters in a couple of different states, and then turned a state that didn't get turned in the last 26 years, since 92, last 28 years, whatever, since 92, and turned to blue in that because of your voter registration efforts. And you're registering 900,000 people, almost 1 million almost 1 million in Georgia alone. People are going to fear you. They fear her. And they are right to fear her because she is exceedingly dangerous to them. She can put asses in the polls. She can put ballots in the box, real ballots, and can raise money as well. She is feared. She's feared as well as she should be.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if MOT was going to address the comments in the chat, but I'll go to this real quick.
No, there's no need to.
Okay.
What comment was that? I didn't see it.
No, we're going to get right past it. We're going to skip right past it.
Yeah.
You got it.
We'll just move it on.
Yeah. Let me just play this clip real quick. I think it's still relevant. Fair use.
The president unintentionally telling the truth there for a change, as he spoke for about 90 minutes last night, mostly, of course, about himself. Hard to say how the president's behavior in the last 72 hours or so is going to impact these Senate races, but early voting broke records with at least 3+ million people casting ballots in Georgia before Election Day. But today, turnout appears a little lower as people are in and out with few, if any, long lines like we saw when early voting started last month. Now, we're getting our first read on this. The CNN exit polls of today's voters have just dropped. So this does not include people who voted early. Again, this is just from today. And I want to run through a few of the numbers that jumped out at us. 56% say the election was conducted fairly, but the partisan split is huge. More than 9 in 10 Democrats say it was fair, but 3/4 of Republicans say it was not. The in-person electorate in Georgia is skewing older today than it did in November. And in preliminary results, fewer young voters and more older voters are turning out. Those numbers certainly could change, but it's not a great sign for Democrats. And to the racial makeup of the in-person electorate, similar to where the state was in November, 62% of voters today were white, 29% African-American. And with all that and more, I want to bring in my guest, Tia Mitchell. She's the Washington correspondent for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Tia, you got the perfect perspective on this because I'm seeing some national and even some state Republicans in Georgia really worried about how today's going to go for them. The conventional wisdom seems to be that, hey, if you took Trump out of this and all the stuff that he's done, they probably win by 3, 4 points. If they lose by 1 or 2 points, they wouldn't be surprised. How concerned are you hearing they are on how particularly the last 72 hours could impact things for turnout today?
Yeah, and it's interesting because Republicans believe that it's hard to turn out the base without President Trump because he has so much influence on Republican voters right now. But unfortunately, he didn't come with the message they wanted him to have, which was energizing voters to participate in the election. That was muddied. He tried to do that, but because his message was so muddied by questioning the integrity of not only the general election, but those who are administering the runoff, you know, there is concern among Republicans that, you know, the president may have confused voters, may have motivated voters to stay home because he told them their votes wouldn't be counted accurately. And so there is concern that his message was not helpful and that maybe has hurt Loeffler and Perdue. We won't know that till we see what the turnout is after today.
But it even veered into more crazy town than that. He said he was going to be back there in a year and a half to campaign against the sitting Republican governor for re-election. He called Ratzenberger. He says, we got to prosecute the guy, the Republican state secretary of state. I mean, there was a lot of GOP crime last night that was going on. I mean, talk about divisive on the eve of the day of vote.
Well, again, the president has spread a lot of falsehoods about the vote. And of course, there are many Democrats and even some Republicans who are troubled by his call. The Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, Georgia counted its presidential election votes 3 different times, and Joe Biden won all 3 times. But again, this has been very self-serving for the president because this keeps him at the center of the Republican Party. And it keeps Republicans saying that, you know, Trump is our president and he can be our president.
When you look at where the early turnout came from in Georgia, on the county levels, et cetera, what have you seen that gives you an idea on how today might turn out? Obviously, we don't know what the day of turnout's going to be, but from where the votes have come from so far and the numbers they came in, are there any tells?
Well, right now, based on early voting, it looks really good for Democrats. They did a good job turning out voters, particularly younger voters and infrequent voters. There were, I think, about 100,000 people who did not participate in the general election who voted in this runoff. All of that bodes well for Democrats. The question is, will Republicans turn out today on election day? We know that Republicans are being discouraged from voting early, particularly by voting from mail. So a lot of Republicans said they were going to wait today, the final day of the election, to cast their ballots. So if there's good turnout from those rural parts of Georgia, those deep red parts of Georgia, they could match up with Democrats and make it a much more even contest and make it more likely that Republicans will hold on to these seats.
I'm going to go through a number. It's probably a small number, but given how narrow the margin was in November, maybe it's significant. It's been said to you that the voting bases for Loeffler and Perdue are pretty much the same. But Ossoff and Warnock, at least in November, they drew from different populations, by and large the same, but different pockets turned out in different ways. Those two campaigned largely on the same ticket this time, doing a lot of events even together. Is there an idea they can bring in a broader coalition, and that was the strategy going into today?
So it's interesting because Warnock and Ossoff were much more likely to campaign together even during the general election. And they would campaign, for example, with Stacy Abrams and other Democrats, even though Warnock in particular had other Democrats he was running against. But when it came time to the runoff, you saw Loeffler and Perdue really merge their campaigns, create this joint ticket, this single voice. I think that was a strategic move from Republicans so that they could combine resources that get more bang for their buck. And as a result, you saw that Warnock and Ossoff started campaigning even more closely than they had before.
So far, so good in terms of few, if any, issues in both the early voting and even the day of voting. When do you think we're going to know, Tia? I know it's going to be a close race. That said, how quickly do you think they're going to be able to tabulate the votes given all the attention?
Well, you know, it's going to take some time. Remember that Georgia by law cannot begin counting absentee ballots until the polls close at 7 p.m. Eastern. And we expect there to be, I think, about 1 million absentee, or maybe it's 500,000 absentee ballots that will be cast this time. And it's going to take some time to go through all of that. Remember, if the polling is close, if the results are close, that means we're going to take some time and count provisional ballots. If it's close within 0.5%, there will probably be recounts in Georgia. So it could take some time because we do expect the results to be close tonight. So I think of at least at the earliest Wednesday, but it probably will take a few days. It could take a couple weeks.
Nation will be watching. Tia, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Trump wants to come down in 2022 and overthrow the Republican governor.
Yes.
I mean, this is significant, man. Not only is he going to be out of office, he wants to he wants to start a civil war within the party. This never happened before. Not that I can recall. I don't recall this happening under Bush. I don't recall this happening under Bush Jr. I don't recall this ever happening with Reagan or Bush Sr. That's how far back I can go. I don't recall this ever happening.
You would have to go to the 19th century to really start to look at this kind of thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. We haven't seen this really in the 20th or certainly in the early part of the 21st century. We haven't seen this. So this is unfamiliar to anyone here living at this stage. But this is indeed what is going on. I wanted to also say very quickly, I've been looking at some of the returns, and right now the Warnock and Ossoff are having somewhat rather impressive leads so far with with Warnock, I believe above, he's ahead about 207,000 votes, and Ossoff close there as well. Will that hold for the night? I don't know. I don't know if that will. I'm kind of not thinking so, because some of the other outlying white counties that are not as populous, but yet they're going to come out in big numbers. They're certainly going to cut into those leads, I do believe. How much they will cut into them, very difficult to say, and how much more they're going to have coming in from the absentee ballots that they are actually fairly confident that they can get counted pretty fast tonight, because they've had a lot of experience at getting through ballots rather quickly with three recounts and so forth. So they're on top of their game there. But right now, the Democrats seem to be mounting a fairly impressive campaign so far in their move to take these seats. So let's keep it going. I don't know, Mike, if you can get any current numbers on your screen up, but you might want to start to look at that, because this is about 47% of the vote in so far. Yeah. So large percentage of the votes are coming in right now.
Yeah. So you can go ahead, Mike.
No,
I got the times. You got the post. So
okay.
Damn, not much more. And yeah.
I mean, when do they start calling it? By what? Over 50%?
No, like I think that they're just gonna let this thing ride out, where they just keep filling in the map, because there's going to be all these legal challenges with recounts if they call it one way or the other. So that's why I'm just really not.
They ain't calling this tonight. They're not calling this tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying you're probably going to be looking at. Hold on, I'll pull up the calendar.
I'll stop sharing my screen.
Tuesday. I think this thing probably will be called by the 15th. Because you're going to have all these legal challenges, and people don't get what they want one way or another, and you got to have time for that stuff to go through the courts. So I would say minimum by the 11th. If they're not doing the recount as the count, as they did in all these other states like Wisconsin and Nevada and Arizona, but they may be going through all those protocols right now as the actual count comes in. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows what's going on. there as of right now until you see the winner, if the legal challenges after the people actually get through voting and counting. So.
Well, this is where we at, man.
Yeah,
this
right now. Because most people who are on the conservative side, they haven't really said what their plans are for the country.
Mm-hmm.
They've been really caught with their pants down having this guy in there. Because now they have to stay silent altogether or risk being kind of outed for, because they're going to have to take a side in this upcoming Republican Civil War, which is going to be another show. But they don't want to talk too early. Like, you don't see the Tatums, the ABLs, the Dominants. I mean, no one is taking a side other than the talking points. So they got to fight two wars. They got to fight for their actual relevancy in the party and their actual voice for the party going forward. I don't see how they're going to be able to do both of those things, because we need these people to speak up the day after the election. But the more they're silent, it's not good for them to just come out now.
Yeah, they're gonna fall back and take a wait and see how this thing kind of shapes out. Either way, it's going to be somewhat a bit ugly on both sides of it. Both are going to come out of here, looking bloodied. Going to be difficult, I think, for the party itself to come back from a rather insurrectionist look, a anti-democratic, anti-American kind of stilo running through the heart of the Republican Party, and people having to take sides around that. That is going to be, like my old man says, that's going to be a tough titty to suck. It's going to be a tough one here for everyone. And lining this thing up with the party is going to be difficult. We're not going to see this thing shape out for at least till 2024, because this thing has just begun, and fireworks are going to go off tomorrow, and then it's going to be terribly on after that. So this is a tough one for the party. It's a tough one. So even the Tatums and them, regardless how ridiculous we might think their positions are, they're probably smart in falling back and not saying much here at this stage.
I would consider that to be political cowardice, though.
I would think so, but Mike, look at the position, but look at where they are, man, bro. Look at where they are, man. This, you can't make chicken soup out of chicken shit, man. This is a tough one, bro. Yeah. It's a tough one. There's nothing good here. No real good choices as far as I can see, really looking at this. And some of the Republicans who are going to come out tomorrow against what they see going on here is really going to really set this thing really hardcore with respect to a line of demarcation inside of the party here. There's going to be a line of demarcation, man. This is a tough game. Tough game we'll look at, and it's historic. So we are looking at history. You've never seen this before. None of us have.
I've been in the social space since probably 2007, 2008. I've never seen, in all my time of being here, I've never seen this like this before. When Obama came into office, you didn't have this sort of blowback and pushback from Black male conservatives. That didn't exist like that. Now it's just like these new people have come around and they're showing colors that we have never seen before. And so it makes it really confusing as to where do Black men as a demographic really stand? Somebody got removed from the chat earlier, good riddance to him. And basically tried to, well, my vote is private. What are you talking about? Where do people really stand on all of this? If you're going to say, well, I'm not going to come out and say anything until the coast is clear, until the smoke is clear. Like, well, why did you jump on it to begin with? And so I just find it interesting, man. We MOT goes live every time there's an election, a runoff or something like that. We've been covering the politics for the last 6 months. Unwavering in opposition. If we're wrong, prove it. Debunk the stream. Like, we haven't taken down anything. Not sure what's going on in this space, man. Political cowardice, man.
But also, Mike. Okay, good. Go ahead, MOT, because I just want to make a point. Go ahead, MOT. Go ahead.
No, they wanted to walk in with the both sides do it. Everybody's corrupt. Well, what did you do? Private. All right, man. Out of here. Gone. Okay. Yeah.
It's also I'm looking at this. It's a lack of political thought. No political news sticks. No real understanding, in my view, of real politics on the ground. They haven't studied it. A lot of these guys have not studied politics, and not that you have to be a deep study and have read 1,001 books, but you do have to have you have to have a fundamental kind of understanding of what politics is kind of about, and how party and how party politics and stuff somewhat kind of works, and positions and so forth. Very important. Understanding what a conservative is, what a liberal is, what a progressive is, and what a libertarian is, and so forth. Having a fundamental, basic understanding of this, and none of these people understand this. I've come into this space, and I've had conversations with people who I thought had some understanding of some of this, and they really don't. If you can sit down here and even ask one of these people, okay, I'm a conservative. Please give me your ideas on how you think your community can best work, or the Black community can best work underneath conservative principles as laid down in conservative policy. They cannot answer this. They can't even answer such questions. God forbid ask them, are these guys constitutional conservatives? Forget about that. Let's not even go there. So they don't even understand what that is. They don't understand the true libertarian positions. They don't understand what a real progressive is. They don't really understand and really get a good handle on what a real liberal is. They don't understand except talking points and saying a lot of things. So they get out except saying a lot of crap stuff, talking points. But that's why they get caught out here looking crazy, because they don't understand this stuff. We can take a position and stand to it and say debunk the stream all day long, because we have a fundamental understanding of the basics of this game, and they don't, and that's disturbing. There are few who are out here who might and are playing a certain game because they're being paid to take certain positions, but others are trolling and looking to take positions, and I don't believe have a clue as to what the hell they're talking about. And some who even I've given some credit to don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand the basics. They can't speak from any of these basic positions and understand them. So and we've tried to do that. We've done that on the Brain Trust. We've certainly done that here with MOTs. We've gone over to Art New Styles channel and quite a few others. Art New Style, he does a good job over there as well, and other places. And folks have just they haven't learned much. I don't know why that is.
I can tell you.
Go ahead.
Realize that they're surfing the cultural game. It's all about cloud chasing and trolling. It's not about trying to make a move to make things better, because this political history is extremely messy, no matter which side that you choose. Like, most of these people have no intentions on making this situation better, because starting to move this thing in one direction or another would betray their position of stagnation. They don't want things getting better to the point to where they're actually turning around and they have to go through who they voted for and why, and the actual party platforms and the things that were not actually delivered on. They don't want to have to answer for any of that. So the only thing they want to do is just come here, troll, and just be a political narcissist. Well, they come in, they don't take a side, and you have to give up all of your sides of the argument, and then they just try to throw rocks at your side of the argument without giving what their side of the argument is. And they don't crack a book to even know the political history of the side that they're on. And then they play this I'm in the middle game, or, oh, I'm just here for the conversation. But you see them over in other chats chasing down voter fraud claims. Everywhere you go, it's always you know, I haven't taken a side, but I'm at a place where all the sides are actually very, very clear, but somehow they're in the middle. So that's where you're at with these people.
Let me play this clip real quick. Fair use.
Legislature, former gubernatorial candidate. She's the founder of Fair Fight, which is a national voting rights organization that fights voter suppression. Stacy Abrams, it is great to have you back with us. Thank you so much for taking time tonight.
Thank you.
So we spoke last night, Stacy, about your expectations and Democrats' expectations for Election Day today. I just have to ask you, as we're closing in on poll closing, how has it been? Have there been any problems or concerns today that people should know about?
There have been a few hiccups, but they've been all pretty steadily and quickly remedied. We've seen steady turnout across the state. We've seen strong turnout in some areas that lean Republican. We've seen incredible turnout in some areas that have strong Democratic leanings. And so it really is going to come down to those final numbers.
And Stacy, hey, it's Joy. A quick question for you, because, you know, just for a moment to take a zoom out, which I know we shouldn't do because everyone is tense about what's going to happen tonight. But, you know, I worked, you know, on the 2004 election for America Coming Together when we coveted Georgia. Georgia was the thing that Democrats all, you know, probably coveted more than any other state. So can you talk about the long-term consequences of what you've been able to build, of the work that you and people like LaTosha Brown and others have been doing? What does that mean that Georgia becomes now, big picture, regardless of how tonight turns out?
Well, if you look at the work done by Helen Butler and NSA UFOT, and by Helen Kim Ho, who was working early in the Korean and Asian American communities, Jerry Gonzalez, who is doing a lot of work with the Latino communities, what we've seen over the last decade has been a steady change in demography, but we know that electoral politics always lag behind demographic change. And what we've been able to do in the state is really acknowledge, harness, and now invest in that demographic change. And the reality is that trend is not going to reverse itself. We are going to continue to see a diversification of the state of Georgia. By the end of this decade, we assume a lot of the projections say that Georgia will be a majority minority state. And what that will signal is that any party that wants to be competitive in the state is going to have to reckon with what it means to address the issues of healthcare, of jobs, and of justice. Those are the conversations we're having in this election, and those are the conversations that will continue until we come to a resolution that truly serves all of the people of Georgia. That's why we know that we are competitive, and that's why I believe that we will continue to make gains over the next decade and more.
Hi. So Georgia is going to be a minority state? Let me.
Any party that wants to be competitive in the state is going to have to reckon with what it means to address the issues of healthcare, of jobs, and of justice. Those are the conversations we're having in this election, and those are the conversations that will continue until we come to a resolution that truly serves all of the people of Georgia. That's why we know that we are competitive, and that's why I believe that we will continue to make gains over the next decade and more.
Hi, Stacy. It's Nicole Wallace. I first have to tell you, every single person that comes on my show, reporters or former elected officials, heaps praise upon your work in the state, the hard and years-long work. And I have to ask you a question about that work that's been rattling around in my brain. Is it made at all easier by the brazen and really gross nature of Republican efforts to disenfranchise voters? I mean, I hope you didn't listen to Trump's recorded phone call from Sunday, but first of all, you are in his head. And second, he makes clear that he doesn't want the votes of the citizens of Georgia to count at all. He just wants the Republican officials there to go fabricate a fake count. Does the brazenness and the ugliness of that kind of disenfranchisement and voter suppression make some of your work more stark and easier, or does it make it harder?
Yes, I will say it truly is both. We know that in 2018, when voters turned out to vote, when they attempted to vote, they ran into the phalanx of voter suppression techniques that have been perfected by Brian Kemp and have been continued in some measure by Brad Raffensperger. That not only blocked access to the right to vote, but it also animated voters. It animated Georgians who suddenly realized that a power that they should hold had been thwarted by someone who was supposed to protect them. And that's, I think, why we saw such extraordinary turnout in 2020 from voters who saw in 2018 that when they wanted to be heard, they could not. And they redoubled their efforts. We worked with them through Fair Fight, and other organizations, and they turned out. And I think every time Donald Trump disparages the millions of Georgia voters who decided that they wanted to participate, it renews their commitment to being a part of the body politic. They want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they will be.
Stacy, let me piggyback off what Joy asked you, actually, this idea of the sort of bigger picture about the kind of change that has happened in Georgia. For those of us watching from a national perspective, it feels like it's been quick. I know from the ground, you felt every single one of those steps and every inch of that progress because it's been so hard fought. But I wonder if you feel like there is a message from what you have accomplished in Georgia, from taking it from a deep red state into what is now a swing state, a purple state, that other states should learn from. Not every state in the country, but a lot of other states are heading toward increasing diversification, toward demographic changes that mean a less red state future for them. What needs to happen to translate demographic change that trends toward a more demographic electorate toward electoral results?
Well, I'm going to do a shameless plug here. I wrote a whole book about it called Our Time Is Now, Power, Purpose, and the Fight for a Fair America. I use Georgia as a template, but the first half of the book is about acknowledging and recognizing that voter suppression is real and it's not purely endemic to the South, and that in every state, especially those states that went from red to blue, we're going to have to fight hard to make certain Republican legislatures don't retrench and reinvest in voter suppression as their method of victory. But the second half is acknowledging the legitimacy of identity, that race, that marginalization in community, that sexual orientation and gender identity, that poverty and class, they all matter. People make decisions based on their lived experiences, and we have to acknowledge it, center it, and run on it. One of the things we did differently in Georgia was that we stopped hiding from the people we were trying to serve, and we actually talked to them. And then more importantly, we asked, how could we help? That's how we do it across the states. It's going to take longer in some places than others, but I believe, particularly in the Sun Belt, that's the pathway that we have to follow if we want to fully harness the demographic changes and convert them into permanent electoral victories.
Stacy Abrams, Democratic leader in the state of Georgia, national voting rights leader and Democratic leader. It's great to have you here tonight. We are 2.5 minutes away from polls closing. I know tonight you.
So this is where we are, man. People will tell you, stop the steal. The election was stolen. But we know that voter suppression impacted people in 2018. That's why she didn't win. You know, a lot of people will say Dominion and all these other conspiracy theories about things being stolen. We have on record that Black voters were purged from the rolls, and the people saying stop the steal are not acknowledging that the Black voters that were purged from the rolls were actually from the party that they're supporting. It's unbelievable, man. It's unbelievable.
That's a fact, Mike. You're talking nothing but the word. Mm-hmm. And not only because I was on the Obsidian's channel at the time, co-hosting then. The election came in, and we saw how close Stacy Abrams had come, and we thought this through the voter suppression that she could have won that. And we also had in Florida, why am I forgetting his name, Mike? MOT, the candidate who, the brother who was a mayor of Tallahassee, who came very close to winning there as well.
Oh, the one that got caught with drugs and stuff?
Yeah, guy got caught with drugs and
Bynum?
Huh?
Bynum?
Gilliam.
Yeah.
Gilliam. Yeah. He, he came very close as well in Florida. Mm-hmm. And of course, we know Florida has a tremendous reputation for voter suppression, as we saw in Bush v. Gore and so forth. So we've seen how that game is played. And when these guys talk about the frauds, these guys have had a much deeper history in fraud and literally keeping people from voting than anything else, if you want to call that a fraud as well. I consider that to be fraudulent because a lot of people were taken off fraudulently. They were not taken off for legitimate reasons. Names that were the same as somebody else in another state. I mean, just craziness. But they were, but it came down racialized lines, ethnic lines, and they were able to purge votes, many votes that way. And that's basically what they do. we talk about Greg Palast here. I've been a very avid fan of his for some years now, just because he's an investigative reporter and has been really going into detail as far as how these guys knock your vote out by voter suppression tactics, and there are many of which are being used, that they use in which to do this. And he was there very actively in Stacy Abrams' campaign 2018 and was bringing up lawsuits and had about 67,000 votes put back on the ballot as they tried to purge, well over 100,000 of them, close to 200,000 of them, and purged almost 1 million voters before that, before these people actually were able to vote. So that's what they do. They don't play a fair game. Their game is to see to it that you don't get to these polls, and they can take you out so you cannot compete equally with them. And that's when we're looking at some of this here tonight as well, just like Stacey Abrams and them were talking about. My fraternity brother Vaughn and all them who were looking at that. That's why when they were registering these voters, it was a big job to do, and they really had to be on top of their game during the voter registration campaigns to make sure that everything was perfect, because they knew that the Secretary of State, who they're giving so much credit for standing up to Trump, would be there trying to eliminate these people as voters as well, even under that voter registration campaign, of which they've actually attempted to purge a fairly significant percentage of them as well. So that's what they're talking. That's what they're about. But yet, stop the steal. Stop the steal. The elections are fraudulent. But yet, these are the biggest voter suppressors anywhere in the Western Hemisphere, and it's a shame. It's really a shame, and nobody talks about this at the level that they should.
No, I mean, I think Stacey Abrams said by 2024 that Georgia will be a minority state. It's already purple now. I mean, you could potentially see the same thing in 2025, 2026 for Texas. A lot of people say, "Oh, Texas, that's a red state. That'll never be a blue state. It'll never be anything but red." I don't think so, man.
2028, man. I'm guessing 2028.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm guessing 2028.
But Mike, if you remember, Greg Palast said that, and you played a nice little clip, a nice little video.
Georgia's already blue. That's what he said.
He said it's already blue. He said it's been a blue state for quite some time. Mm-hmm. But how did they keep it red? Through gerrymandering purposes, for the local races, and voter suppression. That's how they've kept themselves in power, through devious, cheating, illegal means.
Yeah, which is where we're at, man. And this, a lot of states are going to be trending, man. Colorado is getting even more, people within the Denver metro area, moving from these more conservative areas from far east and far west of the state, and they're moving to the metro area. And they're moving there because of the jobs and the actual economy. So these smaller states are failing for the most part.
Yeah. And red state leaders are not coming up with any solutions to progress their states for what it is. Arkansas, starving. Mississippi, starving. People in government so small, you pack them in a room, they all get COVID. I mean, this is the sort of situation that's going on here, man. Let me play this clip real quick from Greg Palast, just posted. Fair use.
Yeah, when they kicked out the watchers. You are committing fraud.
Fraud is being perpetrated on the people.
10,000 dead people voted. How is this fair?
Stop the Democrats from stealing our election.
I say it's illegal voting.
Will not accept treason in America.
That is ridiculous. But it's called voter suppression.
And has this ever happened to you before?
Never. How could they be so wrong with 198,000 people? They are being disenfranchised in the middle of a significant election.
But wait. Weren't we told in school that America is the gold standard of democracy? What's the reality? that America is filled with millions of fraudulent voters voting illegally? Like this man casting an extra illegal vote?
Oh, hold on a second, man. Oh, wait a minute. What's going on here? What is this?
Weren't we told in school that America is the gold standard of democracy? What's the reality? That America is filled with millions of fraudulent voters voting illegally? Like this man casting an extra illegal vote?
What's this? Black people need to go back to times when they were conservative, when the family was intact and everything else. When Make America Great Again, MAGA Nation. What's this? Birth of a Nation? Is that what the new hats say now? 2020 Birth of a Nation? What's going on? It
don't look remotely black.
What's going on, man?
Oh, like, dude, is that the like? You gotta know, man, that your face is gonna be on camera, bro, and you can't be walking up there looking like that, man.
Oh my God. Oh boy.
I don't want to hear nothing from these guys on the right, man. What's this? What is this? Stop the steal. And there's the steal right there, man. There's the steal right there.
Somebody's missing their shoe polish, man. Like this.
Man.
Oh
boy. Oh Lord have mercy.
And they were like, they're brown people. Like they're not black people. Yeah.
I thought that was somebody unfiltered, man, in the space, the Uncle D, man. I thought that was him, man, but
Oh boy.
Yo, these guys are talking about stop the steal. What's this, man? That's a ballot. That's not a Dominion box right there, man. What are you talking about? That's not a Dominion box, man.
Oh, Jay. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Please continue.
What's the reality? That America is filled with millions of fraudulent voters voting illegally? Like this man casting an extra illegal vote?
Dead people are voting, people that have moved to other states.
Or are we a nation where Americans are wrongly blocked from casting their ballots? So there are two competing stories: widespread voter suppression or massive voter fraud. For example, this year, Georgia's GOP Secretary of State accused 1,000 Georgians of voting twice.
There are 1,000 people of that 150,000 that actually double voted.
Wow, 1,000 double voters. That's a felony crime. And how many of those 1,000 did he arrest? Zero. None. Zero voter fraud. So fraudulent voting is a fantasy, but what about vote suppression? Just before the 2020 election, the same Georgia official canceled the voter registrations of an astonishing 198,000 voters. They
Stop the steal.
Called it the purge.
I got my hands on the big purge list. Now, how? It actually took years.
Greg Palast, an investigative reporter with Rolling Stone, got suspicious about the disappearance of tens of thousands of voters from Georgia's voter rolls. Georgia told Palast that these voters had moved out of their home, left Georgia, but the purged voters told the reporter,
"But I've been voting right here ever since 1968.
According to the state of Georgia, they said, well, these people had moved away. So I went through the list and I started finding these voters.
I've lived in this house for 20 years.
And I've been living in this house 13 to 15 years.
I had been purged from the voter rolls, haven't moved, and my name was not there.
So what's going on here? The state says these voters have moved, and here they were. Who knows if you've moved? The post office actually has licensees who can go into the postal computers and tell you exactly who's filled out those change of address cards. So the post office contractor gives me the official list of people who've moved and people who haven't moved. And it turns out these voters, they hadn't moved. 198,351 of them had not moved. So I took this list to the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union of Georgia, and they issued my report, Georgia Voter Roll Purge Errors. Is this illegal? You bet. I looked, and according to federal law, before you purge someone off the voter rolls, you have to check with the post office and their official licensee contractor. That's law. So I get a call from the president of the National Bar Association, C.K. Hoeffler.
Purging from the polls is a classic sign of voter suppression. That's a classic tactic. Isn't it ironic that the people being purged from the polls, by and large, are Black and brown voters? How do you explain that?
Hoeffler sued to return all 198,000 voters to the rolls. The suit was filed on behalf of rights groups headed by Black Voters Matter.
Latasha Brown, the co-owner of Black Voters Bus, is touring at least 12 states to spread their message of empowerment.
Even the National Voter Registration Act, a simple requirement is to have a third-party licensee. That's a simple requirement that you can literally just, in a matter of being able to verify that those names, those 198,000 names never would have been on the list.
Right.
If they had just followed the procedure.
They said they moved. Did they move?
They said they're moved and they didn't move. There's no evidence that those 198,000 people have moved. So we know what this is. This is another form, what we believe is voter suppression.
A federal judge told the state to meet with Black Voters Matter and fix the discrepancies, the massive errors in the purge list. Latasha Brown, backed by a dream team of America's top rights lawyers, went to the state capitol to confront officials to fix those discrepancies.
This purge case is just one of the many ways in which they are trying to destroy the vote.
If one voter is disenfranchised, that's one voter should be. And we're coming to the new suppressor chief's office and demanding a meeting, and then we'll see him in court.
So Latasha led us on a march into the Capitol. The attorneys had told the state we were coming to meet the director of election. Now remember, this was once the heart of the Confederacy. We get to the office of the Secretary of State, and it's locked and dark, but there's a phone number taped to the door.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
The voting sheet has disappeared. It was a cheap trick to avoid Latasha, but she had another idea.
And the Twin Towers.
So we went on the hunt.
And there he is, Chris Harvey, Georgia's Director of Elections, the Purge General himself. The man who erased these voters' registrations, dressed for casual Friday.
Mr. Harvey, just a quick question. I was just talking to some voters, Curtis Fraser, Michael Watson, Ishtar Diaz. According to your office, these voters had filled out change of address forms because they moved, and so they were removed from the voter rolls. They told us that they have not moved 20 years at the same house, 19 years, 10 years at the same house, that they haven't moved. They never filled out those forms. Can I give you their names? You can put them back on the rolls. They were wrongly removed.
I'll be happy to take their names and we can follow up with them.
Well, actually, we have a list of 198,000. If it turns out that they have not moved, as you claimed, will you return them to the voter rolls?
Sir, I'll be happy to take the information and follow up.
So even if they're wrongly removed, you won't return them to the voter rolls? In other words, you're just not going to do it.
I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to
do. Let me ask you a question.
I'm not going to answer any questions about.
Now, but you told the court that you thought that maybe the post office, through a licensee named Anchor, had identified these people as having moved. They said they didn't. We checked with Anchor. You never checked with Anchor or the post office. We did. Why did you give the court the impression that you used the postal licensee to check whether these people moved, but you didn't? Have you spoken to Anchor?
I'm not going to answer anymore.
Have you spoken to the post office and its licensees? You won't answer that. Well, the federal law requires you to do it. So you're saying you're not sure that you follow the federal law?
We just want to get it resolved. Like there are 198,000 people, as you can imagine, that we feel very strongly that are being disenfranchised right now. And so we're coming in good faith. We've reached out repeatedly for the last 7 days. We just want to get it resolved. And so we would like to sit down with you all. We don't want to get a run around the block. We want to sit down, have a meeting, have our experts to sit down with your experts and get it resolved. That at the end of the day, people's voting rights as an election officer, you understand how critical that is.
Will you and the secretary meet with Latasha Brown and her plaintiffs?
Yeah.
You're not going to say whether you're going to just meet with them? The court has asked you, said you should meet with them.
As of today, the state of Georgia still resists returning 198,000 voters their rights and refuses to meet with Latasha Brown.
Ain't gonna let nobody. Don't let them turn. Don't let them turn.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, man. Stop the steal, though. Stop the steal. Where's all them cats at now? Where are these guys who stood up here and said those devices? That me or
caught these guys, caught him literally red-handed, caught him unprepared to deal, and you saw what he did. He tried to nullify the situation. He's sitting there trying to nullify.
They didn't show up with guns, man. They showed up with facts.
Oh no, but that's a gun to them. That's a gun.
That's the smoking gun. But
that is the smoking gun.
These guys go to DC, stop the steal, 45 this, masculinity. It's unbelievable, man. And we got how many people in the chat? We got 46 people in here, man. There's other live streams going right now talking about women and other things, and they got 100 people in there. How come you're not over here? You care about the system so much. You care about the Constitution so much. You're a constitutionalist. How come you're not over here? You got white men in blackface.
Ossoff is about to lose his lead.
Who's getting ready to lose their lead?
John Ossoff.
Yeah. It looks like it. It's going to be a tough one. Like I said, it's going to be a long night. All the facts that it's going to have to come through. Yeah, this is going to be a deep evening here. So let's see how, because only a third of the votes have come in from like Gwinnett and from Cobb and also from Fulton. So there's still a lot more to be counted. So let's just see what's going to happen. This is going to have to go all night long, man. This is going to be, pack a lunch, pack a dinner, maybe get your sleeping bag out, because this is what we're going to be dealing with for this evening. This is going to be a long one.
Yeah. Crazy.
But 198,000 people off of the rolls makes it a little easier for these guys to try to secure victory. That's why they do this. That's why I said the voter suppression in this race will be decisive. That's why they do this. Go ahead, Mike.
Look at this comment right here under the MOT scroll. MOT scrolls back.
Where?
Under the election the election results. There was a comment under there. It says that Loeffler spent $300 million. If you scroll back down to the bottom. Yeah. Nearly $300 million was spent on advertising in the Loeffler-Warnock race, making it the second most expensive Senate race ever, behind only Purdue. And you got people sitting around waiting for a $600 check, man. I wish we could take money out of politics like this. I wish we could.
Yeah, it's crazy. That doesn't make sense. I mean, the money is endless. I mean, I can't lie. I was talking to a couple of cats down there, and right there, right there in Atlanta, University of Georgia, whatever. These my fraternity, the undergraduate chapter, I thought they got $15,000. They got $25,000. Listen, it's undergraduates, kids 17 to 20 years old, 25 grand hitting their chapter's pockets to go out there and do and do voter registration and get out the vote. I mean, that's the kind of money that's out there. These guys, they're out here running around, young kids out here running around getting people registered and stuff and doing the pull. And here they are, college kids with 25 G's in the bank, for them to pull this off. I never saw anything like. When I was in college, we were doing this kind of stuff. We didn't see any, there was nothing close to that. Nothing.
Hey, Mike.
Go ahead.
Mike.
Yes, sir.
Check out the attorney, current live stream.
All right.
Don't laugh too loud, man. Yeah, but this is where we at, though. You know, yeah. This is where we are. You know, just 65% in, man. Look like a little bit tight.
Well, let me ask you this: is there a Mississippi runoff coming up this year?
I don't think so. Not for that Senate seat. Nah, I mean, you know, he lost outright. Outright.
Yeah, I think that brother from Louisiana, man. I think he's going to be a strong contender, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he needs to raise all that much money either.
No, I think your internet, your social media game got to be tight. He's getting a lot of buzz. He's getting a lot of buzz out in the street. So your social media game got to be tight. That's it, man. You know, and brothers in the space got to just push for him as a whole, man. You know, he called out everybody. He didn't hold any punches back, man.
And he used his complete 2 minutes to do it.
Yeah.
He didn't troll 2 minutes up to the T.
Yeah, he didn't troll anybody, you know. You know, he made his point very fair and clear. So Gary Chambers is his name. Let me make sure that we give this guy a buzz before we get up out of here, man.
Yeah. David Perdue is in the lead now. By 17,000 votes. Wow, that changed quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're saying Cherokee County for Purdue and them have come out very strong for the Republicans there. So that's one of those counties that are very heavily, like they came out pretty heavy. So it's cutting into the numbers, heavy.
Me from this video with Connie. So I had intended to get up here and talk about how racist Robert E. Lee was, but I'm gonna talk about you, Connie. Sitting over there shopping while we talking about Robert E. Lee. But I'm gonna talk about Louisiana today. The people of Baton Rouge know me for fighting for health care access in North Baton Rouge, helping change the name of Lee High School to Liberty High, fighting to keep the zoo in North Baton Rouge, and a $300 million investment coming to a divested community. Because change doesn't just happen. We fight to make change happen. Most of your run-of-the-mill politicians, career politicians, will tell you we're doing a great job. But the truth is, we understand that they haven't been taking care of the health, welfare, and the safety of our community. The numbers don't lie. Folks that grew up on streets like this, on Oreo, like me and my complex family story. My mother committed suicide when I was 2 months old, and my father struggled with alcoholism. So my village stepped in, and my aunt and uncle became my mother and father. And communities like Oreo Street and all over this country understand that our fight for change requires that we come together the same way my family did to help bring me forth. We've got to bring our state forward. So our children have a state that they can live in, thrive in, and prosper in, instead of leaving for what they see as greener pastures. We've got to fight for clean air and green jobs, because we understand with the closure of Shell in Convent and the hundreds of jobs that we're losing, if we marry our state to one industry, we are married to their prosperity or their demise. And the future of jobs for our children requires that we look at the Green New Deal. This global pandemic that has shown us the inequities that exist in our healthcare system means that we have to fight for Medicare for all, to give every American a fair shot when they get sick. The truth is, profit should not be the determining factor of the quality of care you get when you go see a physician. It should be about healthcare and serving people. You have inspired me to jump into this race, to go and fight in Washington for change for all people. I am unapologetic in my position and unafraid to speak truth to power. It's what I know how to do best, and it's what we need in DC. What I'm asking you to do is take this journey with me, from East Baton Rouge to West Baton Rouge, to Iberville, Ascension, Assumption, St. James, St. John the Baptist, St. Charles, Jefferson, and Orleans, through all of Louisiana's 2nd Congressional District. We deserve a fighting chance for our children to live out their wildest dreams right here in this state. But we can't be satisfied with being dead last, and we can't elect career politicians if we want change to happen. If you vote the way you've always voted, you'll get what you always got, and we'll end up where we've always been, at the bottom of the map. And what I'm asking you to do is take a walk with me on this journey for change, and let's go make equity, justice, and progress for all people a priority in Washington, D.C. I'm Gary Chambers, and I'm running for Congress. I need your support. I need your prayers. I need you to volunteer and organize, because if we strategize, organize, and mobilize, we're gonna win this thing, y'all. Do good, seek justice. I'll see you at work.
You talk all that family stuff, sounds like a conservative to me.
Yeah.
Oh no, oh, no, he's a progressive, a black male progressive.
Oh,
A black male progressive out there running hard, putting in work. Where's all these guys at who talk about being black male first? How come they're not pumping this brother up?
Sounded kind of conservative to me.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow. He was progressive, Mike? Wow. MOT, he was a progressive. That was a progressive brother? Wow.
In the South.
I want to go to.
Yeah, a lot of people talk this conservative stuff and say, well, you know, I was raised in a two-parent home. This brother lost his family. He lost his mother and his father and was raised by the rest of the family.
You notice he called it a village. You noticed that? You heard him call it a village, right? Very significant.
It's conservative talk.
To a video that has gone viral. We're turning to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where a video of a well-known community activist calling out members of the school board for their racism has gone viral. The board was meeting to discuss a resolution to change the name of Lee High School, named after Confederate General Robert E. Lee. This is Gary Chambers Jr. addressing the board member, Connie Bernard, after he noticed she was online shopping during the meeting. Bernard can be seen walking out as Chambers speaks.
So I had intended to get up here and talk about how racist Robert E. Lee was, but I'm gonna talk about you, Connie. Sitting over there shopping while we talking about Robert E. Lee. This is a picture of you shopping while we talking about racism and history in this country. Only white members of this board got up while we were up here talking too, because you don't give a damn, and it's clear. But I'm gonna tell you what the slaves, my ancestors, said about Robert E. Lee, since you don't know history, sister. Let me tell you that they said when he got the plantation, after he got off the field where 27,000 people died at Gettysburg, Connie, Robert E. Lee was a brutal slave master. Not only did when he whooped the slaves, he said, lay it on them hard. After he said, lay it on them hard, he said, put brine on them, sort of burn them. That's what Robert E. Lee did. And you set your arrogant self in here and sit on there shopping while the pain and the hurt of the people of this community is on display, because you don't give a damn and you should resign. You should have resigned 2 years ago when you choked a white man in his house. You should have resigned 2 weeks ago when you got on TV and said foolishness. And you should walk out of here and resign and never come back, because you are the example of racism in this community. You are horrible. Now to the rest of the board. You have an obligation to the people of this community, and 81% of them are black. And do you need a Klan rally outside, Mr. Goday, before you end it? Because holding it up means that you put that building in jeopardy. You do, sir. Because all over the country, they burning stuff down. And black folks in this city have stood with protesters. I ain't seen you elected officials out there with them, making sure that nothing goes south in Baton Rouge. It's been folks in this community who give a damn, not just when it's comfortable, but every time. And 4 years ago, we came down here. Mr. Drake, they say you're a good man. Be a good man. Black folks say you're a good man. White folks say you're a good man. Your legacy is attached to tonight, brother. Your legacy. Now, let me say to the black members of the board, it's the most solidarity I've seen out of y'all in forever. Let's keep it that. Let's stand on this moving forward, because we don't need to apologize for Connie, Evelyn. She showed you who she was when she was sitting next to you while you were talking shopping. You don't need another example. Now, when do we as Baton Rouge stop being in 1856? If you want to name the building after somebody, how about PBS Pinchback, the first black governor of the state of Louisiana, when he was governor during Reconstruction? You want another name? Oscar Dunn, who was the lieutenant governor of the state of Louisiana in the 1860s, that gave the right for Darius Landis and Don Collins and Evelyn Ware Jackson and Tremel Howard to get here. You want to name it after somebody from Reconstruction? Name it after the people who fought for abolition of slavery. If you want to name it after somebody, honor the right people, the people who are on the right side of history. But it's your ancestor that the school is named after. So you're holding on to your heritage. But we built this joint for free. And we've done begging you to do what's right.
Thank you, sir.
That's Gary Chambers addressing the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board. On Thursday, they voted unanimously to form a special committee to come up with alternative names for Lee High School. This is Democracy.
Which was then turned into Liberty High School based on his performance and his suggestion. That's how you redress your government and how you redress the party. That's what it looks like. All this fluff in the chats about immigration and black men and, immigration, we got to worry about, these sheltered communities and whatnot. That's how you redress your people, man. Force this woman to walk out. Force the name change on the school. You got guys in this space talking about SYSBM. I'm done, man. I don't know, man. Nicole, you got anything?
Yeah, well, it would require one to know some history as well. Mm-hmm. He's breaking out some very critical history there and talking about, what was really going on in that state, and how it was formed and what was going on during Reconstruction and the whole, and how the right side of history really, was coming through. And these people here in this space, a lot of these guys here, they're just not there, man. They're not there. They're on some next level shit. They're on some other shit. So, as I said, I don't have much respect for what I've seen. So that's why I don't, these guys are not capable of redressing, a board like that under a withering attack. That was a withering attack. That was a withering attack. Withering. White woman had to walk out of there. Too many facts being dropped. Too much hardcore stuff being dropped there. It was a withering attack. Withering.
Do you think he sat by and was thinking in the back of his mind, they might see me as a toxic black male?
He didn't think twice about that. He came in there with the truth and addressed the board as it needed to be addressed. He wasn't thinking about nothing crazy like that.
No, he put the hands of God on him, man.
It was a withering attack.
Mm-hmm.
Hit them in their souls. They didn't even want to hear it. It's too loud. Go ahead.
Yeah, meanwhile, you got immigration lawyers talking about wait until Chinese take over. I mean, this is the type of stuff that goes on in this space, man.
Unbelievable.
This is the type of stuff that goes on in this space. And I'm behind this dude, man. I'm gonna donate to the campaign.
He definitely at least get a C note from me.
Yeah.
And more. That's at least. That in fact, that'll be coming forth with by tomorrow.
Well, maybe we should just try to get in contact with this dude.
Yeah. We should.
Be a good idea.
Yeah, and you got, scathing, man, scathing. I wouldn't want to be on the opposite side of that, man.
Oh no, dude, they had a photo hunt hearing that.
Withering attack. It was withering. It's just withering. Homegirl walked out. She got.
What else she don't do?
Couldn't take it, man. It was too live.
That video got 52,000 views on Democracy Now!, a channel that has close to 1 million subscribers. And the other video he did had 406,000 views. This brother getting some buzz. And so, although he talks conservative, he is a progressive. And this is the conundrum that is in this space, that people think that you can just be a conservative by being in a two-parent home. That's not the business anymore.
But it's also speaks to the fact that black men are more conservative. Classically, we've been this way. This is what we are. Most of us sitting right here, we're pretty conservative in many of our views and how we go about doing certain things in life. We're pretty conservative. You know, we're progressive and so forth when it comes to equal protection underneath the law, equal opportunity, and this type of thing. You know, constitutionally correct, you know, fair play, and so forth. This is what we're about, and people want to say that you're a snowflake or you're a socialist for this type of for this type of thinking, redressing many of the wrongs that were done to you, saying that things need to change, and better opportunity for not only our people but especially black men and black boys, which there's legislation that is coming down on our behalf that was put into the last COVID this last COVID stimulus bill that we need to cover at some point in time. Mike, maybe you might want to speak on that a little bit more, but this is something that we this is kind of what we believe in, and we understand conservative policy, we understand progressive policy, and so forth. We understand this stuff very well. That's why there's a problem with these brothers with us, why they want to troll, because they can't get up here and really talk these types of facts, but they'll get in there with their people and and ad hominem and talk crazy, and that's what they're about. So it's of which those kind of interactions I have absolutely no interest in getting involved in, but that's where they're at. This brother that had that withering attack on that school board, that's how you handle a situation like that. That's how you deal. That's how. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, he didn't ask for any super chats. He didn't say fill up the battery or Cash App or anything like that. Venmo. He didn't say any of that, man. He didn't say subscribe to my Patreon. He went in there guns blazing with a T-shirt. Everybody else is suit and tie. He came in there with a T-shirt and a mask.
And tore them out the frame.
Didn't stutter not once.
Nah, he tore them out the frame.
Yeah, but people want to sit here and talk about illegal immigration. All right, man. You got people right now doing live streams talking about wait until the Chinese come. Bro, you're an immigration lawyer. You should be more happy, you should be more than welcome into that.
Oh my God. Oh Jesus.
People want they want us to work together. Brothers should come together and work together. I don't know, man. Emil, do you have anything on that? I don't know.
No, that's it, man. It's all we got, man. We can't really do much outside of this 76. It look like they're both down now.
Yeah.
They'll lose both of them.
Yeah.
You think you think it's it for them? You think this is over?
Sorry for both of them, yeah. Unless, with those many votes in, I think Atlanta already came through. So,
is Atlanta fully through? I don't know. I haven't been watching it close. I'm looking at it, but yeah.
No, Atlanta's not finished yet.
Atlanta's not, right?
No, Atlanta's not finished.
What it is that most of the conservative counties, since they know how to count those properly and correctly and very quickly, those are always first, man.
Yeah, they're coming through heavy, but they voted heavy. They were going to come out. They certainly were going to come out.
Oh no doubt. Oh no doubt.
Yeah, this is good stuff. I would have liked to have seen more people here in the chat room, but folks not in on this. It's tough, but
they're out to lunch even when they're out to lunch, man. So, yeah, MOT. Thanks for having me on, man.
All right.
Yeah, MOT. Listen, thanks for having me on as well. Great, Mike. I have to give Mike a lot of credit. I think he left, but he's dropped a lot of good video clips, and we just need to kind of continue on keeping the information upright, relevant, and truthful. Okay, MOT. Listen, thank you for this evening, and we'll continue to move forward.
All right. I want to thank you guys for coming through for this Georgia U.S. Senate election runoff live coverage. We're going to be back tomorrow night covering the aftermath of the ceremonial electoral college vote that's going to happen in the actual Senate, which is very easy, but for some reason, people don't know the process and they really don't care about the process at all. I want to thank Wayne Brown for $2 super chat. I want to thank you guys for coming through. Before you actually leave, drop a like on the video and actually comment in the comment section. I want to thank you guys for coming through and supporting my channel on The Man of Tomorrow. You guys have a really nice day.